Hey everyone, thank you for tuning in. Well, I'm on the water. I'm pretty excited. I'm getting ready to start making a few casts. This is the first fishing trip for me of the 2024 season. It's been a long winter. I'm ready to start getting a few casts made, get a line in the water, see what I might be able to catch out here today. I'm in a sit inside kayak, not really ideal for fishing, especially in the way that I'm going to be fishing today, which is with my ultralight setup. Going to be fishing a small soft plastic, just seeing if I can pick off some fish out of some of this brush and stuff that I'm able to throw out up through here. So that's kind of the plan for the day. We're at the end of March. I think it is March 30th today. March tends to kind of be a long month for me. It's that month where things start to warm up enough. You get enough nice weather to where you think you need to be out on the water. But then when you get out here in Kansas, you often find that it's still just pretty dang cold. Wind is usually blowing and just bites are limited, especially when you're fishing from the bank like I tend to do. So anyway, we're in a kayak today. I'm gonna stop blabbering, but I'm gonna start making a few casts. Got the camera with me, I'll keep on. I'm trying out a little wind muff for the wind today. There is some wind out here today, but we're just gonna try to deal with it and do the best that we can. So I'm trying out this little wind protector thing on the camera. We'll see if it makes any difference or not. Later on in the trip, I'll probably pull it off and film without it, just to be able to kind of compare audio and see kind of what works best, work out a few kinks. But if we do catch some fish through here today, then you guys are going to get to see that action, assuming everything with technology and everything else goes right. So without further ado, let's get to casting. Let's see if we can find some of these fish up in here. Well, folks, I was totally unsuccessful in the kayak. Spent a couple hours out there and just nothing going on. I mean, couldn't buy a bite, not even a bluegill. So refusing to get skunked with my ultralight setup on the first trip of the year, I figured, well, let's just go over to the other end of the lake where it's a little bit deeper and just hit. I'm just standing on a rock outcrop or whatever you want to call it, and fishing on the backside with the wind at my back. That way I can get a cast out. And stood here and got just a couple of casts out and caught a couple of fish, so a couple of small crappies. So I figured, well, at the risk of looking odd, I'm gonna just go put I didn't bring like a chest mount for my camera, so I went and grabbed my life jacket. I'm standing here on the bank, fishing from the bank with my life jacket on, so I can have the camera on my chest and just see if I can film myself catching a few of these fish. We'll give it a little while, see if we get a few more bites. If not, maybe we'll go hit a different spot, but we may not be able to find a different spot. This is a pretty popular lake, and it's a Saturday afternoon, really nice weather. It's not a lot of bank access. There's one right there. The bank spots are limited. But there's another crappie. And this is about like what we were getting last year. This lake is just clear full of crappie like that. And just short crappie. I think the limit is 50 a day, so pretty liberal limit, and no length limit on them. So that's what I was using last year, like I was saying, for catfish on the river, and they worked really well. So I'm gonna stand here, and if I'm getting them, I'm gonna pick them off here for a while, and we're getting them up here in the shallows. I had heard a couple weeks back that guys were getting them off of the dam, off of some deeper brush piles, getting just buckets full of them. But that was a little early. We've warmed up a little bit now, so we might be getting close. We're not quite there yet, but spawn should be right around the corner. And last year we were able to come out here and just stand on the bank and just load up on these things. So I'm kind of hoping it's going to be similar this year, and last year I was able to kind of set myself up for the whole year. I got enough crappie to put in the freezer. I mean, I don't need a lot. Got enough crappie to put in the freezer to last me through the season. Obviously, I'd prefer fresh bait if I can get my hands on it, but it's not always realistic for me to have fresh bait when I've got one day a week to fish. I need to have bait in the freezer so I can go get after the cats. What I may do is, if I can't get any more here on this bank spot, I might just get the kayak back out, put it in, and just see what happens. Work this bank, let the wind blow me down across it, and maybe I'll find a few more fish hanging on it. Give it a couple more casts here, and then we're going to get the kayak out, I think, and just see what happens. We won't spend too long in it. If we're not getting bit, we'll just come back. Maybe go try to find another bank spot. Alright folks, I'm in the kayak, back on the water. Man, it's just hard to fish effectively with this wind. Being in the kayak, I mean, it just wants to push you right up on the bank. I don't know how you're supposed to get any fishing done when you're always trying to adjust for the wind. So this may not last very long. This might be short-lived, but I just kind of thought, well, I got some off of that corner. Maybe there'll be some more just down along this bank here, like that right there. There you go. The proof is in the pudding, I guess. We got us one right there just like that. So I was kind of just thinking that's how it might work. We'd just find them down here along this bank, but I kind of want to go back and, I mean, there's going to be fish on that spot. I might have to work, if I'm getting bit, I might have to work through here. Might have to come back around and float it again, because, I mean, the wind's just moving you to the point where you can't really work a spot. But if I'm going to get bit down through here, I was noticing too there on the bank that these fish seem to be biting a slower moving bait. So I might have just been working it too fast. But I mean, there was nothing going on down where I was on that other side of the lake. Nothing at all. So now we've got 4 crappie and a couple additional bites just being on this spot here. Makes me think maybe we're just in the wrong spot to begin with. Well, I'm back on the bank. I worked that stretch with my kayak, and really I got in a position where the wind was I was kind of protected from the wind, and I was able to work it pretty thorough, I thought, but no bites. Hard to imagine a scenario where there wouldn't have been any fish at all on that stretch down through there. So I don't know, but I get back over here and make a few more casts from this bank spot, and I've got 3 now just being back out of the kayak and on the bank. So I grabbed the camera. I had 2 fairly aggressive strikes on back-to-back casts and thought, well, geez, maybe they're about to turn on, so I'll go grab the camera and see, just in case. And nothing else happening. I did just have a bite right there, but yeah, nothing else really happening. So not really looking like you all are ever going to see this video, but you never know. I did end up taking the wind protector off, so we will see if there's any difference in the audio. So if nothing else, I'll at least be able to get a little bit of education that way. But I'd sure like to pull a couple more fish out of here. There's one, finally. Geez. Yeah, just a really light bite. You almost can't tell when they hit. Can't tell if it's a fish or if it's just a bumping against a rock or something down there. Another one to toss in the cooler, though. Oh. That right there. That's what I was talking about earlier. See how I've got line coming off of that spool now. Oh, geez. That's what happens when you don't switch your line after 6 months of inactivity. Well, bear with me. I'm sure I'm going to have to cut that and retie. Huh, believe it or not, I actually got it out. Yeah, but that means I need to switch this line out. I'm just the kind of person that has a hard time replacing stuff when what you're replacing seems like it's still good, and there's nothing wrong with the line. The line is fine. It's just that it's sat on the spool so long that it's become curly like that, and it just causes problems. Time to re-spool. Well, if I could catch 2 or 3 more, I'd at least consider posting the video. Oh, there's one right there. It's not like I get any views on my channel anyway, so I may as well. This one feels a little bit better. It might be a bass. Yeah, that's a bass. I may as well post a video. May as well post a video where we're not having a whole lot of action and get 10 views like I do on all my other videos, even if I do catch good fish. And that is not a very big fish, but it's a stout, healthy bass. Toss him back because can't keep him for bait. We do have a length limit on the bass. And I would keep him for bait too if I could. Don't bother me any. I'll use anything as long as it's legal. Don't seem to bother the catfish too much either. Seems like they'll about eat anything. Yeah, hopefully that bass there didn't run all my crappie off. Still like to get 2 or 3 more. Not that I really need them for bait. I'm probably not going to go catfishing here in the next couple of weeks anyways. And this bite will pick up within the next couple of weeks on the crappie, and I'll be able to load up on bait, so I don't really need them for bait. But it's just kind of a bummer when you come out and you film and end up not getting anything for it. But there's one right there. That I think is going to be a bluegill, maybe? Yep, that's the first bluegill of the trip. Maybe we'll just stand right here on this same spot and cast over and over and over to the same location and get bit that way, I suppose. And get my line out of my way. That's a pretty nice bluegill too. That is one thing about this lake. For whatever reason, it's loaded with crappie. You catch a bunch of crappie, you tend not to get very many bluegill. But the ones you get, good fish. I'm not going to keep him for bait. I kind of like the crappie better, and I think I'm going to have plenty of crappie. And like I said, not really planning on catfishing anytime in the next week or two, so I might as well throw the bluegill back. I like the crappie better for cut bait, honestly, down on the river. Now, might have done my gulp in there. For whatever reason, the crappie, I don't know if it's like the sheen, like the shine of the fish or what, but they just seem to be more effective for me. I have more confidence in them. They're just a better bait. And they're legal, so I'm going to use them. Like I said though, I like the small ones. That's the thing that's kind of nice about this lake being loaded with them right now, is that I can take a bunch of them. So I can load up on them, get my gulp straight. I can load up on them when they're biting real good and just use them throughout the year. There's no length limit. If there weren't so many smalls in this lake, there'd be a length limit on them, and then I wouldn't want them so bad. Because a lot of the fish I catch are in that 5 to 10 pound range. And it just seems that the smaller bait gives me a better hookup ratio, and I haven't noticed that fishing the smaller bait impacts at all my ability to catch the bigger fish. So I prefer to have these crappie that are in the 5 to 8 inch range. Bluegill were, that bluegill we caught there would have been in the probably 6 inch range, so it would have been right in that same size class, but for whatever reason they just seem not to work as well. And don't get me wrong, that bluegill was probably about 6.5 inches, but it was thick. It was a nice bluegill. Much better fight than the crappie are. But I get more value out of the crappie with being a better catfish bait for me. There's one. That one's a crappie. Mr. Crappie. Get that gulp out of his mouth. Get him in my cooler with the others. And they're all textbook fish there. They're all almost exactly the same size. There's one right there. Wind was blowing a little bow in my line, but I felt a thud and I saw the little tick on the line. Watched him load it up. They're fun when you're on them. It seems like we kind of got on them. They maybe moved in, or they've probably been sitting there but just turned on a little bit more as we got closer to evening hours. I bet they've been sitting there all day, because or maybe not all day, but for several hours, because we caught those couple before we went out in the kayak and then came back, and the bite was slow, but seems to be a little bit better now. Still not super impressive, but a little bit better. They're probably just starting to turn on a little bit more now. We're getting closer to sunset, just closer to dusk, and closer to that feeding window where these fish tend to get a little bit more active. So this time of year, I don't have major concerns about fishing in the afternoon, because that's when things start to warm up. But at this point in the evening, the water is probably at the warmest that it's going to be, because it's had the sun on it for the longest amount of time at this point. Regardless of what it is, I'm glad that they're starting to bite at least a little bit. We might have enough catches here to justify posting the video after all, even if I am just standing on the same exact spot for the duration of the video. Like I said, may not be real entertaining for YouTube purposes, but people don't watch my channel anyway, so what's the difference? And I am definitely the kind of fisherman that's going to stay on the fish. I'm not going to leave fish to go find fish. Maybe if I was fishing a tournament and I needed to catch bigger fish, I might leave these fish, because I'm obviously not getting size here, but I'm not a tournament angler, so that's not really a concern. I'm not fishing a tournament now, and honestly, if I'm going to catch crappie, I'd rather them be small for the bait. Unless, of course, I'm going to get like a 3-pound crappie, then I'd rather catch the big one. But if it's the difference between a 6-pound or a 6-inch crappie and a 10-inch crappie, right now I'll take the 6-inchers. There's one. Again, just that characteristic thump, and then a lame pull, lame tug on the line. Ow. He about got me with that hook. Mr. Crappie's out to get me. But in the end, I'm the one that got him. Now we're starting to get a fair number of crappie down in that bucket. there's one. Again, didn't even feel the bite, just saw the line swim. Boy, we're starting to get on them. I like it when it's like this. Need to be more gentle with that rod. I keep dropping it because I got the camera on my chest, and every time I bend over, y'all get crooked. So instead of bending over, set this rod down. I've been tossing it down. I really probably shouldn't be doing that. Oh, I had one there. It hit me. Don't know how many fish we're gonna get out of this gulp, but we've sure extended its lifespan by turning it around and rehooking it the way we have. We'll see if we can get a couple more, and then we'll probably call it quits after that. We're getting later in the day. I'm starting to get a little bit hungry. I've been out here for several hours now. We were in the kayak. We'd been done a long time ago. We'd stayed in the kayak for the whole trip because I'd be hurting at this point. Yeah, we gotta replace this line. This isn't working for me. That's getting replaced before our next outing. I think we can get a couple more. I mean, we've already got way more than I thought we were gonna get. I was hoping just to get 2 or 3 more, and now I'm still hoping for a couple more when I've got probably 6 or 8, since I said I wanted 2 or 3. Oh, geez. That was our fish right there. There's one. That one hit a little harder. The smallest fish of the trip, and it hit the hardest. About yanked that thing. About yanked the rod out of my hand. That's probably the smallest crappie we've caught. He may be the last crappie we catch too, I think. Guys, that little guy there, I'm half debating putting him back. Some catfish will want to eat him. Might only get one bait out of him. Yeah, I think that there is going to be the last fish, at least of the video. Classic fisherman here. Probably going to make another cast or 2, but it's about time for me to get out of here. So in the end, I ended up having what turned out to be a successful trip. It was saved here in the last few minutes of the trip that turned into the last half hour to hour of the trip. This one bank spot here ended up being the golden ticket, but I'm sure glad I found it. I had a lot of fun catching these fish. The first fish of 2024 for me, y'all. So like I said, had a good time out here. Always have fun when I go fishing, but it's always that much more fun when you actually catch some fish. So glad I was able to do that successfully. Looking forward to the weather warming up, the fish getting to be a little bit more active, getting out more often, and doing a lot more of this. Got some good stuff coming up here in 2024. Really looking forward to it. Thank you all, of course, as always, for tuning in, and we will see you in the next video.